found such great faith, not even in Israel.
That's powerful. So we know now it's concrete. Master Yahushua was talking to a Roman individual.
So just being Israel doesn't mean that you're going to have the best faith and the best belief.
That's powerful.
It just comes from the heart.
And our Father King lead and let us understand. We know you devils out there are mad when you read the next verse right here, what Master Yahushua would say. We know you devils are mad, but see, we're speaking to the spirits. We're not dealing with the flesh. You wicked spirits out there, you understand that our Master Yahushua of Nazareth, the one who you hate, look what he says here in verse 11. He says, and I say to you that many shall come from east and west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob or Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. In that place there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. A lot of people who got that racist spirit, they hate when Master Yahushua would say that. But notice how Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, notice how they in the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And we know the 12 apostles. Of course, one fell away, but we know that the 12 apostles are in there. Apostle Shaul, they're Hebrews, aren't they? Mm-hmm. So we know when Master Yahushua was saying this, he's not talking about casting away as far as what replacement theology teaches, that he rejected Israel as far as for the church. No. So notice how Master Yahushua, what he's expressing here, he didn't show any racist attitude to this centurion. Mm-mm. Not at all, did he? No. Not. So for people who tried to make Master Yahushua seem like he's a racist bigot, like how they really are, really, we beg to differ. Thank you, Father, my King. You have anything else out here?
Nope.
All right. So my family, let's go to Matthew the 15th chapter.
15.
Thank you, Father Key. It's just interesting to read from our ancestor Matityahu, who actually wrote the gospel, and then it was passed on by what we call today manuscripts. That's why it's no author that's known, because these were manuscripts that was passed down, and they didn't put their name on it. But we know Matthew wrote that gospel.
Yeah, just like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Moses wrote it, right?
Yes, sir.
But Moses didn't write his own death, and nobody can confirm that they have his manuscript with his handwriting on it saying by Moses.
Correct. And family out there, those of you who are aware of our ancestors in Alexandria, when the Ptolemies, requested the translation of the Torah to be translated from the Hebrew to the Greek, we know that Eleazar and those men who came with him, the Ptolemy didn't ask Moses to come down and translate it. But what? Our ancestors came and did what? Translated. So we can see now do we know their names? Well, we can see their names in the letter of Aristides, for those of you who are aware of that. But again, the point being made that the word was passed down from generation to generation.
Yep, and you can't negate that.
That's
with anything in the scriptures. From Genesis all the way to Revelation. Even if we just focus on the Old Testament, it was passed down. So if we weren't physically there to confirm who wrote those, but we can go by faith and also by the resources or sources that state Moses and other individuals wrote certain books, then we should be willing to acknowledge the same thing when it comes to Matthew and Luke. Yes, especially when it comes to the book of Luke. Luke says that I, Luke, writing to you.
Yes, sir.
O Theophilus.
Yes, sir.
So,
and even with the book of Samuel, is there any place where it says that Samuel wrote the account of Samuel? Or Yahushua of Nun wrote the account of the book of Joshua as we know it? No. But what we do know is that our ancestors passed it down. They wrote of the information. Mm-hmm. And we're not ashamed of that, are we?
No.
But for those out there who try to attack as far as our ancestors, which is very interesting that these are Israelites. I know. It's interesting. These are Israelites, and these are people who was writing about Master Yahushua, and it was spread on to different nations. Mm-hmm. So you basically have people who claim they're Israel attacking Israel. It's interesting. But anyway, my family, so let's, again, thank you, Master, for your patience. Matthew chapter 15, we're going to examine verses 21 through 28. And
21 a 28, por favor.
Now let's find out again from our master, because we're going to see if he practiced what he preached, or was he racist, which we know he's not.
No.
But this is what people say. So let's just look at Master Yahushua and see.
Yes, sir.
Starting at verse 21, it says, "And Yahushua went away from there and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman came out from that region and began to cry out, saying, Have mercy on me, O Master, son of David," or David. "My daughter is cruelly demon possessed." Now let's stop for a moment. Again, it's interesting. Thank you, Master. It's interesting that her reverence, her respect, stayed. Notice how it's similar to the centurion, as well as the fellow Israelite who was a leper. Notice when she said Adonai,
That's crazy.
it didn't attach to her color of skin,
No.
or the blood in her body, or her background, culturally speaking. But notice how she had that reverence for the king. Now let's see how he responds when she says that to him. Please guide us, Master. Verse 23. "But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came to him and kept asking him, saying, Send her away, for she is shouting out after us." That's powerful. Now, notice how our ancestors, see, we got to understand that our ancestors felt a certain way about that at that particular time. Notice that.
A little bit of racism, it seemed like.
They were struggling with certain things. Now,
Get that person out of here.
now let's see. But technically, though, she was calling out to Master Yahushua. Now let's see what happened. Verse 24. "But he answered and said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Yasriel." That's powerful. Now for people out there who try to make everybody Israelites, are you all going to sit here and say that the Syrophoenician woman was an Israelite? You can't say that, because he just specified in verse 24 that he was sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
And that's why he ignored her.
Correct. He was testing her too. And notice how here, if that would have been the case, he wouldn't have said what he said if she was an Israelite woman. So now let's see what happens. Verse 25. "But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, Master, help me. And he answered and said, It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." That's something. And again, that word dog there, of course, is in English, but outsiders was known as dogs in ancient times. So notice how Master Yahushua, when he said that to her, it can sound to the person who is uneducated, even in my younger years. I was like, wow, Master, why would you say something like that? Not understanding. But now look what happens here. Let's continue to watch the action of this woman. "But she said, Yes, Master. But even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from their master's table." That's powerful. Notice how she emphasized that word Master, Lord, as we have it in our English Bible. Notice the reference. She's speaking that word master more than once, and actually showing reference. Now let's see how our king responds. "Then Yahushua answered and said to her, O woman, your faith is great. Be it done for you as you wish. And her daughter was healed at once." That's powerful. Notice that. Did Master Yahushua dismiss her? He didn't do that, did he?
He acknowledged her faith.
He acknowledged her faith.
That's crazy.
The question that we all need to really think about, does faith have a color or bloodline attached to it? Is faith in ethnicity? Thank you, Father, my King. See, that's the question, the rhetorical question. And you all should know the answer to that, because our Father King's Spirit is going to speak to you and educate you more regarding that. So when you have people out here who try to say that salvation is based on a person's skin color, you know, dark brown and light brown, like what you see here. When a person speak that racist doctrine, know what spirit, what that is from. It's not coming from the spirit of our Heavenly Father and our King. You see, my brothers and sisters? Brother, you have anything to expound or anything?
That was beautifully said.
Thank you, Father, my King. All praise to Abba, precious Abba, our precious King, his son, and guess what? Their precious, set-apart spirit.
Love
See
that
that?
spirit.
Thank you, my Father.
I love that mind of our Heavenly Father.
Precious spirit of our Father and our King. See this, my family? Thank you, my Master. Now, let's go to our other ancestor, John, or Yehukanan, we're going to go to John chapter 4. Many of you are familiar with this, but Father King is just bringing beautiful revelation to us so we can grow and learn and get out of our bigotry for those who have none.
And ignorance.
Thank you. John chapter 4, and this is pertaining to what our master was doing as far as with his apostles. They were baptizing, baptizing the name of our King here. And so you want me to read, brother? You would like to read? Don't matter. Okay. All right, family. Okay, you can read.
Starting at verse 1. Therefore, when the master knew that the Pharisees had heard that Yahushua made and baptized more disciples than Yehukanan, though Yahushua himself did not baptize but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again to Galilee. But he needed to go through Samaria. So he came to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Yehusuf. Now Jacob's well was there. Yahushua therefore, being wearied from his journey, sat thus by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water, and Yahushua said to her, "Give me a drink." For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jew or Yehudiam have no dealings with Samaritans." Master Yahushua answered. So notice how she's acknowledging a trend that was happening during this time.
Yes, sir.
She is aware of the racism or the division amongst Israel and the different people.
And for those of you who want that history, as you go and you look at our ancestor Josephus, he speaks about what happened during the time of when our ancestors was under Antiochus Epiphanes during the Maccabean War. You'll see how there was an issue what the Samaritans did against Israel, and that issue, that sectarianism, carried all over to what the time that we're at now.
Because they separated themselves from Israel.
Yes, sir.
And because of that, that caused that strain and that separation. So notice how she's acknowledging the separation, right? And the disengagement between the Samaritans and Israel, right? Verse 10. Then Yahushua answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of the Almighty and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock?" Notice how she acknowledged Jacob as her father.
Yes.
She didn't say Jacob, your father,
Exactly.
or Jacob, the father of Israel, but she said Jacob, our father, or our father Jacob.
Yes, sir. And the Samaritans do have a Semitic background, but in that time of sectarianism, there was a disassociation between the two.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's powerful. Thank you, Father King.
Thank you, Father King. Who gave us the well? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock? And Yahushua answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water that I might not thirst." No, come here. I'm like, yo, let me get that water. I'm so thirsty. Let me get it.
But see, but brother and sisters, notice how Master Yahushua was offering something beyond flesh. See, this is what people have to understand.
That
it wasn't because of her skin color that he was going to offer it to her.
Correct. And,
that's powerful.
Yep. And so it goes to show that love goes deeper than something physical. Just like water is deeper than something physical, but something spiritual.
He's talking about living water. Chaim Ma'im, for those of you out there who are aware of that.
Ooh, Hebrew.
Yes, as our Father King lead, but but to edify. Notice how the translation came.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't speaking above you
Right.
to where you didn't understand. But our Father King had him to translate that. So notice how he's not offering her just water like how she's interpreting in what we just read. When she said in verse 15, she's still thinking, she's like, what is this water? She's curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. So notice what our master is doing. He wants to give her something that is beyond what's in that well.
Absolutely. So, where are we? Thursday. And Yahushua said to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." And Yahushua said to her, "You have well said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband, in that you spoke truly." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where one ought to worship." Yahushua said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship Him. The Almighty is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship Him in spirit and truth." So notice how he's making the distinction as far as the sort of worship, right? And the salvation that's to come. But notice how he's specifying, please God, my Father, my King,
You guys.
that verse 23 he says, "But the hour is coming now is when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth." So worshiping our Heavenly Father in our flesh is not the significance. Worshiping Him in spirit and truth, in actions, love, and deeds, that's the significance.
Absolutely.
That's the true worship.
Absolutely.
Because He didn't say there's going to come a time where you're going to worship Him in your flesh. So, as our Father King lead, we will take a brief intercession to continue the next segment and portion of our Father and our King's precious teaching, Woe to Racism in the Body of the Messiah. Stay tuned.
Thanks.